Yes, we're very happy to have as our guest speaker, Dr. Les Glassman. He's the Israel Philatelic Commissioner, and he'll tell us more about what that means. Les was born and raised in Johannesburg, South Africa. He graduated from Wits University Dental School, and in 1994, he made Aliyah with his wife and two daughters. Following in his father's footsteps, Les became an avid stamp collector and has exhibited his collections and obtained gold medals locally and internationally. It was his great honor to be appointed International Israel Philatelic Commissioner.
Can you speak up a little?
Yes.
I can hardly hear you.
1 second. Yes. Do you hear me better now?
A little.
A little, only a little? How do I make the volume up? Okay. Thank you. That's it. Okay. Okay, I'll speak a little louder.
That's fine.
My associate, my wife Nani, has just come in and out. Since stamps, no, do you hear me now? Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Since stamps know no boundaries, and Les has represented Israel in numerous countries internationally. In 2012, an official invitation from the Indonesian Philatelic Federation was received under the auspices of the Indonesian Ministry of Communication and extended to Israel an invitation to participate in the World Stamp Championship in Jakarta. It was indeed for his wife and himself the greatest privilege to attend and represent Israel. Bridging the world for peace through stamps had become a reality. Les practices dentistry in Jerusalem and is the Wits University Alumni Associate Representative in Israel. You hear David Seligman, they're also from South Africa, former president of our club. His passion, in addition to philately, is interviewing and documenting Holocaust survivors and uploading his YouTube channel, which has over 6 million views. In fact, I should mention an aside that Les also interviewed me for YouTube on a number of occasions. So without further ado, his topic is philatelic diplomacy, the case of Indonesia. So Dr. Les Glassman, please. Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah.
Screen?
Okay. Okay. Is it sharing? Okay. Oh yeah, can't really see. Art, is it? First of all, I want to thank you. Is it share? I can't see if it's sharing.
Sharing just a small stripe, white stripe.
Yeah. Can you maximize it?
Like this.
Good. Good.
Good. Okay, thank you so much, Art. I really want to thank you. Those who didn't hear the full Art's introduction, you didn't really miss much. But it really was, I must be honest, it's a great honor and privilege to be here, that you've invited me to speak at Rotary. I was very fortunate to actually attend a few of your meetings in Jerusalem, where you had phenomenal speakers. So it really is a tremendous honor and a privilege to be here tonight. So what happened in 2012, they had a World Stamp Championship exhibition in Indonesia. And they invited many countries throughout the world. In fact, there were over 60 different countries, and Israel was also invited. And in order to go to Indonesia, you can't really use an Israeli passport. So I was very fortunate because I have dual citizenship with South Africa. So because I have a South African passport, they allowed me to go in with my wife. And but before we made the preparations for our trip, I was in communication with the organizers of this exhibition. And it was really quite a unique, one of the unique qualities of the World Stand Championship was really this inclusive nature where they had representatives from really, it was all these different countries. And we were all, this was the aim, was to feel part of a family of nations. The aim was fostering friendship and cooperation among philatelists worldwide. And the theme of the exhibition was bridging the world of peace through stamps. Now, I felt this bridge immediately on so many different levels. Before the exhibition, we were all required to come to Jakarta on the Saturday. And because I keep the Sabbath, Shabbat, I actually communicated with the organizers if I could come on the Friday or on the Sunday, but I can't, my wife and I, we can't really travel on Saturday. And they said, no problem. They'll organize for the, to have officials at the airport. And it was actually quite a major big deal because they had to have the custom officials, especially to come, and they came on the Sunday. So my wife and I, we were in Singapore over Shabbat, and we went to a most magnificent shul called the Magain Abot. I don't know if any have been in Singapore, but it's a beautiful, such a beautiful city. And they've got this very old synagogue that's been there for decades. And they have a communal dinner and a communal lunch. And while we're at the lunch, they have representatives from the Israeli embassy. It's like a meeting. They all come there and they all schmooze, they all chat with each other. And when they heard that my wife and I were heading out for Jakarta, for Indonesia, they said, wow, you better not go with your yarmulke on, your kippah. One of the diplomats said you might even end up like Ron Arad, who actually went missing. So we were a little bit nervous. They were quite surprised that we were actually going to Indonesia because it was an official visit, but no Israelis really go and visit Indonesia. Anyway, my wife and I, we caught the flight early Sunday morning, and when we arrived at Jakarta Airport, I'm just going to show you over here. This is, if I can just share this.
Les, can I ask a question? Is anything covering your microphone? Because your voice is quite.
Oh, is it very soft? Okay, maybe I'll come closer. Is this a little bit better?
Yeah, that's better because it's very hard to understand.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so what happened is, and this is quite incredible, they had the bulletin, and the bulletins, they had it on the internet, and they actually had it printed as well. And part of the bulletins had the different commissioners from all the different countries. So this is actually a catalog, and inside the catalog, they have, I think this was, this is what they have. And they had, here you have, they had a picture of myself, and above they had a picture of the Iranian and the Indonesian commissioner. And what was incredible is that they had the Israeli flag as well. And I found this was actually quite amazing that they put the Israeli flag, because this is an official Indonesian part of the post and telecommunications. Anyway, we arrive at the airport, and as we're coming through, going to customs, we see the sign, death penalty for drug traffickers under Indonesian law. So we were a little bit taken aback with seeing such a sign, but we weren't worried about taking in any drugs, but it was just a little bit of a wake-up call. You know, I'd never seen such a sign before at the airport. Anyway, when we got to the airport, we were met by the customs officials. They were really, really very nice to us, and they were very welcoming. They organized a special taxi to take us to the, it was at the convention center. And when we got to the convention center, wow, we saw such an amazing welcome committee that welcomed us. And while I was in the taxi driving, I wore a cap. And I thought, you know what, all my life I've worn a yarmulke. I haven't really worn a cap. So I just took off my cap. And I thought, I don't know, what will be. But everyone saw me with the yarmulke on. It made absolutely no difference. You know, it was like immaterial. People were just very pleased that my wife and I were there. But it was really, really lovely to see this welcoming committee. And I'm going to show you a video now. This is the World Stand Championship.
Organizations in some cities throughout Indonesia. In the early 1953, FPI became General Association of Philatelists in Indonesia, with its first public exhibition called Under the Louvre, held in Jalan Galuh.
So what was very interesting, the mayor of Jakarta, and there were ministers, governmental ministers that opened the ceremony. There was a lot of TV coverage, a lot of press coverage, and we were really they made us feel like real celebrities. That it was really, really something amazing. They made us feel at ease. And what was also interesting, in 2012, it was the 10th anniversary of the Bali bombing, where over 200 innocent civilians were killed in Bali. So the security was actually quite tight as well. But here, at the opening ceremony, to see the mayor of Jakarta welcoming everybody, it was something quite extraordinary and very exotic. We had, I'm going to show you now the dancers, Indonesian dancers, which we thought was magnificent. They really put on a beautiful show. And this was at the opening. As you went into the exhibition, this is a collage. If you look very closely, you'll see it's made up. This is President Suharto, who was very popular in Indonesia. And this collage is made up of thousands of stamps. So it was just a lovely way of actually entering the exhibition. And here were some of the officials from the exhibition, and they all know that I came from Israel, and they were just very, very welcoming. That evening, we had an official opening ceremony, and here's my wife with one of the Indonesian ladies. They really went out of their way to make everybody feel so special, and it really was. And here's with the commissioner from Bahrain. And it was amazing because, now Israel's got relations with Bahrain, only now with the Abraham Accords. But this is 2012. And I didn't know how we were going to interact. But it was just amazing how we connected. It was something really, 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 something I'll never forget. There was a philatelist, not a commissioner. This was a philatelist from Saudi Arabia. And we communicated. His English wasn't that great, but I gave him some stamps from Israel, and he gave me from Saudi Arabia. And we just got on so nicely as well. This is an interesting photo. This is the Egyptian judge and his wife. At the exhibition, you have commissioners that bring the exhibits from different countries, and then you also have judges. There weren't any Israeli judges, but there were judges, international judges from all over the world. And when we met with the Egyptian judge, I actually mentioned to him that I'd been in Cairo, I'd been at the different synagogues, and I'd been at the museum, and also in Alexandria. And my wife, when she was young, she actually went down the Nile to Abu Simbel. So we had so much in common, and we would spend drinking coffee and tea together. We really developed a very close connection. Here was somebody from India is on the very left, and in the middle, it was just so nice seeing can remember he was actually it was also one of the guests that came to the one of the commissioners. I don't actually remember. I'm just going to go to the next slide. Wait a minute.
Yes.
Very beautiful.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, sorry. The person who was in the middle was actually from Mongolia, and I never really met somebody from Mongolia before, but it was amazing. Now we had one free day, and on that free day, I'd heard that there's this very tall tower called the Monas Tower in Jakarta. So my wife and I went into a taxi, and here we were outside the Monas Tower. And these were Indonesian girls, and there are not too many tourists that go to Jakarta. So for us, they looked at us as something strange, but we were so delighted to go there and mix with the actual Indonesians.
We are very keen to meet you whenever possible, because I believe in both-way traffic, then we can solve a lot of things.
Okay, I'm just going to interrupt here. The last day of the exhibition, we had a FIP conference. That is Federation International Philately, where it's like a mini UN conference with the different countries where they discuss all matters pertaining to philately, exhibitions, stamp issuing, anything to do with philately. And it was they have delegates from different countries that attend. And I was very privileged to represent Israel at this conference. So this was the opening ceremony of this conference, which was the last day of the exhibition.
Like this morning, my 10 minutes discussion with our new modulist chairman, Bill Schaffer, we solved a lot of doubts in our mind, although I know it for so many years. Thank you, Schaffer. And we take the effort, for example.
So what was very interesting at this conference, they have the countries by name. And Israel was placed next to Japan on my one side, and on the other side was Iran. And even today, there's like such a bit of, unfortunately, with the governments, there's a big conflict between Iran and Israel. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be. But here I was sitting right next to the Iranian commissioner. And what had happened before we had the conference, the Iranian daughter, she came up to us one morning when we were having breakfast. My wife and I, we were just drinking coffee. And in perfect English, she said to us, "How are you keeping kosher in Jakarta?" So we said to her, we couldn't believe that she spoke English, but we said to her that, we bought provisions from Israel and we have the coffee and we can have the fruit. And we actually got on quite nicely. And when I went to the conference, I know that I'd be sitting right next to the Iranian commissioner. And it was a whole day event, this conference that we had, this congress. And I had seen, there was an Iranian film, I think the year before, that won the Oscars. And I had actually seen that film. And his English was not bad. I unfortunately know Iranian, but his English was not bad. And we communicated incredibly well. Like all barriers were just broken. So I'm going to show you the next slide. So this was the picture where you have me sitting next to the Japanese and the Iranian right next to me. And people said it was quite amazing that Israel and Iran could sit with each other without any conflict. And you really realize that with philately, that all boundaries are really broken if you have the same interests and the same respect for each other. It was actually quite, it was wonderful to see that. When I came back to Israel from Indonesia, I had these pictures, and there were quite a few magazines and newspapers that really wanted me to give them over. And I actually didn't want to. Haaretz is one of these, it's a more liberal newspaper that came to my home. And they did this video, and then they asked me if they could have this picture. But I'll just show you the video first, and I'll tell you my response. This is with the same Iranian commissioner shaking hands. This was during the exhibition. We had so much in common, and we actually had coffee quite a few times together. It was really lovely. I'm Dr. Glassman, and I live in Jerusalem. I've been collecting stamps from a very young age. I was very fortunate to be the Israeli commissioner in Jakarta, Indonesia, for a World Stamp Championship exhibition. The theme was bridging the world of peace through stamps, and by officially inviting Israel to participate, I think it was very significant because basically the two countries, Indonesia, which is the most populous Muslim country in the world, with over 250 million Muslims, has no diplomatic relations with Israel. When we arrived, we were extremely warmly received. Most Indonesians had never met an Israeli before, let alone anyone wearing a yarmulke, and the response was extremely positive. When I mentioned I was from Israel, people were very, very interested to know more about the country. My collection is Mozambique, a Mozambique company. It's not the rarity of the stamps, it's just the display that I've done a lot of research on it. A Mozambique company was an area inside Mozambique that was semi-independent. It was a company that lasted for nearly 50 years. It had a bit of independence, and one of the features of the independence is they issued their own stamps separate to Mozambique. It's giving a little school kid a envelope coming from Israel, with a stamp of Israel, with a message from Israel. They received it so warmly. They were so happy to have it in their possession that I gave it as a gift. I'll remember that forever. It was really wonderful. It broke down all barriers. The message of peace through stamps, it really does work. Just as a stamp knows no boundaries. So I think when you connect with people, when you have similar ideals, and when you just look at each other as individuals, it's just wonderful to see that you really are part of a family of nations. Wow. So I didn't even know that they were going to make that video, but they made it. This was, I think, in the Times of Israel. There were different publications, and this was the Times of Asia, where they put the article. And with regard to the picture with me and the Iranian, I just felt, I took that picture not for publicity. I didn't want the Iranian, commissioner to back home to get into any trouble, which has been people that have had pictures taken with Israelis that they've been actually banned, or many, some have been even put in prison. So I never gave it to anyone. And now what happened is that, unfortunately, the commissioner, about a year later, I got an email from a very close friend who was one of the judges from Australia, husband and wife. They were both judges. They said, unfortunately, passed away. So I sent the family a condolence.
I think you need to either get move back a little bit from the microphone or a little closer, because
okay.
Good.
Sorry. So what happened is that commissioner actually had passed away, and I sent the family an email. And in those days it was NetVision. We didn't have Google or Gmail, and they received it and they thanked me. And the son said that he's going to be in Australia the next year, and maybe we can meet. And they were just grateful that I sent them an email of condolences. But I never ever gave the pictures for any publication. Now, what happened, because it was publicized in the Times of Jewish Times of Asia, I got a call from, he's the only religious Indonesian. This guy is called Yaakov Baruch, and he came to Israel. And I met him, and we did just a very short interview that I did with him, because he's the only religious Jew living in Indonesia. He lives in Manado.
Shalom, my name is Yaakov Baruch. I was born in Jakarta, Indonesia, and I was born into a half Indonesian and half Dutch family. And then since I was a kid, I don't know anything about Judaism or about Jewish life until my grandmother revealed about her background on time when I was in high school that she is Jewish. And then from that time, I tried to find my spiritual life, my spiritual journey to Judaism. And Jacob, can I ask you on this thing? How old were you when your grandmother revealed that Exodus? Do you remember how old you were? I was around 17 at the time, 17 years old. And what religion were you practicing? I was raised in the Christian family. So, but it's like the tradition of Christian, so it's not really religious, but like I know that my family is half Indonesian, half Dutch, and they practice some Christian. The other part of the family practice Catholic, and some is not even go to church. Was your father Christian? Yeah.
Okay, that was, I still have a very close connection with Jacob. So I'm going to show you, this is the picture that I took. This was in Melbourne the following year. I met with, in the picture we have the Egyptian, Turkish, I'm there, and the Iranian, the son of the commissioner. And we have a very close connection. We in touch on email and WhatsApp. And it was just amazing seeing the four of us together. This was in Melbourne the following year. He actually gave me a present, which is so dear. This is a book which is Israeli catalog of stamps that was in both Persian and Hebrew. And before the Ayatollahs seized power, the Shah of Iran, there was always a very, very close connection between Israel and Iran and the Jewish community. There still is a Jewish community in Iran. And this is what he gave me. I treasure it. It was the most beautiful, such a lovely gift that he gave me. What happened 5 years later in Bandung. Bandung is in West Java. There was another, this was not it was a world stamp, not championship, but another exhibition. And when they asked me if I would be willing with my wife and I to represent Israel again, we were so honored and we went to Bandung. It's the most incredible place. It's the third largest city in Indonesia, nestled with volcanoes and tropical. It's just very, very beautiful. So this is a volcano very near the city of Bandung. And at the exhibition, this was the World Stamp Exhibition. It was exceptionally well patronized. There were many school children came, many attended. You can see it had tremendous press coverage on TV and in the papers. And we were invited to the governor's house. This is the governor's house in Bandung.
Indonesia. Thank you. You all worked so hard and you read it so appreciated. Thank you. Thank you so much. Shalom.
It was amazing. They all knew the word shalom.
Okay. It's Jerusalem. Jerusalem of Gold, and it's just been a wonderful exhibition here in Bandung. Shalom from Israel. And you know what this is? Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. It's been wonderful.
So here in the background, you can see what the exhibition looks like. They have the different frames of all the different countries giving their different exhibitions.
Thanks so much. Enjoy the exhibition. Okay, and this is just a little souvenir from Israel. Okay.
Thank you.
And just that's from Jerusalem. No, that's all from Jerusalem. Okay, enjoy the exhibition, guys. All the best. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Not at all. Bye.
So what I did is I had quite a few first-day covers with these ready stamps, and I had postcards of Jerusalem, and I just gave them out to the kids, and the smile on their faces, it was literally like I'd given them gold. They were so excited to receive it, and that it came from Israel. They were even happier. It was really something. It was an eye-opener.
How do you know?
Shalom.
Yeah.
I watching in TV such as National Geographic
Oh, okay.
or Discovery Channel.
Wow. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed. So, Toda Rabah. Let's thank you.
Thank you.
And Shalom is hello and goodbye and peace. We all pray for like peace. And you must one day come and visit Israel. It's very special. Okay. All the very best. And it's so nice meeting you all. And I hope you enjoy it. And enjoy the stamp exhibition. Okay. Bye-bye. Shalom.
Shalom.
This was with I gave also a first-day cover to a philatelist from Saudi Arabia, and this was actually quite amazing. This was in 2017, so they had a booth from North Korea, and I don't know if you can see the picture, but no one's really smiling. I was smiling a little bit, but it was just amazing. For the first time in my life, I'd actually met somebody from North Korea. It was something, wow, it was really extraordinary.
Okay, this is Bobby from Bali. And you were singing, how do you sing it? Beautiful. Thank you so much for being ready. Toda Rabah. Thank you very much. Shalom from Israel. Wow.
So that was one of the most amazing things. We met Bobby. He was also at the exhibition. He had come from Bali, and we were just in our conversation. He said he loves Israeli music and he can sing. So I said, "You mind if I just video you singing one of the songs?" And here he sang Hine Matovu. I think it was something. It was extraordinary. He has somebody else who was one of the youth exhibitors.
I know. What do you know? What?
He's an Indonesian.
How does it go? Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, and then what else? What other song? Amazing. Wow, wow, wow.
So if somebody would have said to me that in Bandung, in West Java, I would be hearing Israeli or Jewish music being sung by Indonesians, I would have thought that they were crazy. I would never, ever have dreamt that I would have been so privileged to have met such incredible people. So it really has been a journey of a lifetime. I just want to, this is just Israeli, beautiful Israeli stamps for Shana Tova, for everybody, for a good, healthy new year. And I just, okay, let's switch this up. What happened is at the exhibition, they actually, the Indonesian Post gave us this. It's a Indonesian musical instrument, and I've kept it since 2012. It's called an angklung, and all you do, you just shake it. It makes the most amazing music. So I want to thank you all very much. In Indonesian, thank you very much is Terima kasih banyak. So really, I want to thank you, Art, and to the Rotary for giving me this opportunity to share this incredible voyage, this amazing journey that my wife and I were so privileged to have taken. And I think what we really got from this is that you see people as individuals, and by communicating with anybody, you can just form such wonderful relationships. So really, thank you very, very much for giving me your precious time. And I hope you enjoyed some of the videos or something that I showed tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Can you close, okay, the screen sharing? Thank you very much for a very inspiring talk. It has, I mean, my club members, friends know it has special significance for me because I lived 20 years in Indonesia until 2017 in Jakarta. And okay, later maybe a few comments. First of all, any questions, any comments, please raise your hand. David Zilligman first, and then
please
Louis.
unmute everybody. David, unmute, please. David,
no, David, just muted.
Please unmute.
Okay, Louis in the meantime.
Okay. Thank you for the inspiring talks about the athletics in general, and especially about your journey to Indonesia. I would like to ask you, I'm a collector as well, and I've seen it through the years that the interest for collecting stamps has diminished tremendously. And so the prices of the stamps, even the good ones, have gone down extraordinary. Do you see any revival of interest in philatelics?
Can I answer? Okay. Should I answer or?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's very interesting. You know, if you go to different countries, it varies. In Indonesia, so many children came to these exhibitions, and you see here in Israel, we had an exhibition in 2018, and it was extremely well attended. But so the exhibitions are really, it's the countries get very involved, and it's a showcasing the countries. But what you said, it is true, because unfortunately with emails, the kids that don't even know what a stamp is, you know, things have changed. And I think the philatelic world are moving maybe a bit too slow. It's a snail mail, but what they're doing is they're trying to make the stamps more appealing. So if you look at the new design of the stamps, they still, there is a place for stamps. And I think with, you see the post offices here in Israel, they're so busy because people are getting from Amazon and all the different places. Stamps, you don't get too many letters with stamps on. If you want to send an invitation, you just send it via email or WhatsApp today. With the prices of stamps, the big auction houses, because I get the Stamp magazine and I follow the auctions, the good quality material, there's still a tremendous demand. In fact, maybe even now more than before, because people are now limiting their collections. Maybe at one time there was too many stamps on the market, so there's becoming much less, and the interest in stamps is changed also. What's become very, very popular, and I've seen the growth in this in the last 20 years, is postal history. And people that have got letters, old letters, it's a whole new way of collecting, because not only do you see where the letter was sent and who it was sent to, but you're actually touching history. So my advice to, whenever I give a talk or I meet people, any letters that you have, family letters, you really should treasure, and definitely not cut out the stamps. The stamps aren't worth that much, but the postcard and where it was sent from and where it was received, it's so important. We got a letter that my late great grandmother sent from Kovno in Lithuania in 1936. We didn't even know that she was there in 1936. So the philatelic world is changing. The postcards are becoming very popular as well, and they're now incorporating in exhibitions all the different facets of collecting. Postcards, you'll see many exhibits of postcards together with stamp exhibits and letters of postal history and postal stationery. And people really are encouraging the youth to collect because it's such a wonderful hobby. And they're having one frame exhibits. So you can have any child, any youth can write up 16 pages with their favorite stamps or their favorite letters and exhibit that as well. So they become very, very aware of that they don't want the hobby to God forbid die out. They want it to just people should enjoy it, because at one time it was the world #1 hobby. Philately was the world #1 hobby.
What's more interesting now, I guess, are the letters before the stamps were.
That's the pre-philatelic.
Yes,
The pre-philatelic is, I've got a collection of pre-philatelic from Jerusalem. And because the truth is I couldn't afford those with the stamps on from the Austrian and the German and the Russian. It was too expensive. So I decided those I was going to sell, and I actually have a 16-page, it's a one-frame collection of pre-philatelic. But it's absolutely unbelievable. There's one letter that was sent to Lord Rothschild in Paris. It just says Rothschild, Paris. You know, and it's amazing. And
really a collector's item.
And you know, and the pre-philatelic, some of those letters aren't that expensive, and you just have today eBay has, and Del Campo, it's actually changed collecting as well, because you can get some incredible good deals on eBay as well. You have to be careful because there's a lot of forgeries, there's a lot of unscrupulous people there as well, but there's some very nice material that's now become accessible. In the past, you'd have to go to a stamp dealer. So even the stamp dealers and the stamp auction houses have a lot on the internet. So you can buy a collection from Canada or the States, anywhere in the world, on the worldwide web, where they have the auctions which are on the internet. So it's become accessible to, it's a global village, to everyone.
Yeah.
David Seligman.
Okay, just one comment. First of all, one of the slides you showed was the sign saying that drug smugglers would face the death penalty. Outside the airport in Kuala Lumpur, they're much more direct.
Oh, yeah.
It says other smugglers will be shot. Quite simply. Right? Just by the way. It didn't surprise me that you, in fact, met up with lots of people from countries that officially have no official contact with us. and related to them quite well, or rather they related to you. I actually found this to be true in many of the places that I've worked in, where the people on the person-to-person basis, people-to-people basis, were very interested in meeting, very interested in talking, and had quite different attitudes from the official attitudes that you had from the governments that came out with strong statements against Israel. So much so that you actually found that people wanted to come and visit and so on, even though they officially were not allowed to do so. So I think the person-to-person contacts that one makes on these occasions, which are terribly important in getting people to understand that, you know, there are places in the world that you can go to that people relate, and that they relate to each other as people, not as official statements from the government.
David, can I make, thank you very much. Can I make a comment? You know, when I was in Indonesia, in Jakarta in 2012, it also coincided with a European soccer tournament. And we were all discussing soccer, which is also international language, soccer, football. And I mentioned to so many people that, you know, in Israel, in the Israeli national team, at least a third, or maybe even more than a third of the Israeli players are actually Arab, and a mixture of Christian and Muslim. And I mentioned there's one player in particular, Wali Badir. Wali Badir was the captain of Hapoel Tel Aviv, and he's a Muslim. And they could not believe that on the Israeli national team, there are Muslim players. But I said, but they actually are our best players. And you know, and it is amazing that the captain of Hapoel Tel Aviv was Wali Badir, who was Muslim. It's irrelevant, you know, but people don't know. They just don't know that, you know, what they see on the TV isn't always the reality. And when we spoke about it, and they were like flabbergasted to hear that there are Arab soccer players in the Israeli national team.
Yeah, yeah. But the whole concept that you get across when you meet with people from the countries of the East is the total disconnect from Israel. They have absolutely no idea, first of all, no idea where it is. And then you actually find that they have no idea of size, population, and so on. On one occasion in Beijing, I was asked at the Ministry of Education by somebody who said, "What is the population of Israel? No, of Jerusalem, rather. What is the population of Jerusalem?" So I told him, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. What was the population of Israel? And I said, at that time, 5 million. And his comment was, no, not of the major city, of the whole country.
Wow.
Could not conceive of a country of only 5 million. Yeah. No, but it's very interesting. And this is why I think it is so terribly important that when one does go abroad, one can in fact talk to people, because the stories that they very often get are the ones that are critical and very often critically true, but they hear very little of the positive side of what goes on here.
So true.
Okay. All right.
Yes. First, to compliment Les, thank you so much. And the pictures were absolutely phenomenal. I think when Israel opens up its first embassy in Jakarta, I would nominate you for Israel's ambassador, Israel's first ambassador to Indonesia, and your charge d'affaires can be Dieter. I would like to say, first, I want to make a plug, and I want you to make a plug for your phenomenal video recordings on YouTube. If you could give all of us a link, I think the link is very simple, Les Glassman in YouTube. Yeah. If you put Les Glassman in YouTube, you'll find hundreds, am I wrong? Hundreds of videos that's part of your hobby. Unrelated to stamps, most of it. Is that correct?
No, it's just I don't know, I enjoy doing it. I enjoy, it's when you just documenting, when I go to the stamp exhibitions, some of the performers it's just incredible. And if you don't document it, then it's forgotten. So I just enjoy documenting. I don't know, it's maybe something crazy, but I do.
And then I also want to compliment you on not bringing into the exhibit any of the Israeli stamps in which the gum is laced with hashish. So congratulations on being very discreet in that regard. Of course, as most people know, hashish is, tell me, is hashish used in the gum of any stamps in the world?
Now there was a question, because it's got gelatine in. So it was a question, can you actually even lick it if it's got gelatine in? For not only for kosher purposes, what about vegetarians? But
what about mustard?
But oh, for sure, absolutely. But today the stamps, it's different. Now they like stickers. Some of them are actually, you peel it off and you just stick it on like a sticker.
Yeah, thank you.
I would like to add just 2 remarks on the, let's say, Israel awareness in Indonesia. There are 2 areas I traveled to. Manado, which is the capital of North Sulawesi, which borders, still far away, Philippines. And Manado is predominantly Christian. And the same Irian Jaya. Irian Jaya is 50% of that huge island called Papua New Guinea. And the western part is called Irian Jaya or Western Papua, north of Australia, right? Just there. And that is animistic, respectively Christian. And in meetings with the governor or deputy governor, I mean, the highest officials in the territory there, any official meeting that I participated is open that the governor says first, shalom. They open a meeting with the word shalom. In Java or Sumatra or Kalimantan, which is the Borneo part of Indonesia, they open official meetings with an Arab prayer in Arabic. And I always was wondering, and then I asked friends, they do that in Manado and Irian Jaya as a kind of despite. You know, they want to tell the Muslim majority, we can do it our way. We do not want to do it your way. Both areas are having independence groups anyhow, especially in Irian Jaya. So there was never seems to be a synagogue in Jakarta, but there was one in Surabaya, which is the 2nd largest town of Indonesia on Java, the industrial town. And that was destroyed some 12 years ago. No, when did happen the Marmara incident with Turkey? If you remember the flotilla that came, as a revenge of the Marmara attack by the IDF, they burned
Dieter.
down the city. Yes.
Dieter, you.
Hello.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, so they burned down the synagogue, but there was no active community anymore. We had an inactive community in Jakarta, mainly Israelis living with their 2nd passports. We celebrated a couple of Passover, Erev Seder, in private houses, and I always wonder what their servants were thinking about those strange customs we did. but officially there was not a Jewish community, but quite a number of Jews from the Asian Development Bank and other organizations, and in Jakarta, which is the capital. So a very interesting time. Les, what I wanted to ask, stamp collection, is that mainly for the beauty of the stamps? Is it to have a complete series of, let's say, all numerical values of a certain period? Or is it as an investment for the value of certain items? What is the main motivation?
Okay, so I'll just mention, first of all, it's very interesting what you said. I don't know if you know Maureen Hanna from Jakarta. She was I think, the acting head of the Jewish community at one time. Maureen Hanna.
No, it doesn't ring a bell. But as I said, there was no organized Jewish community. I met one guy, for example, illustration, forgot his name now. He was born in Indonesia, of some Baghdadi Jewish origin. Most of the old established Jewish communities in the Far East, Singapore, etc., were founded by Baghdadi Jews who came from India originally, right? I know, originally from Baghdad, and then via India went to the British colonies. And anyhow, that guy in Indonesia, you have only 5 recognized religions. And like Israel, everything has to be done by a religious institution. To get married, you have to say, what is your religion, right? And so the Jewish religion, same as the Baha'i, they don't exist officially. So that friend of mine from the informal Jewish community, when he registered for a new identity card, they asked him, what's your agama? What's your religion? So he said, I'm Jewish. So they said, we don't have, but you look like an Indian Hindu. So they chopped this, they declared him a Hindu.
So, Dieter, I'll tell you, the Yaakov Baruch, the person that I showed you with that interview, he actually comes from Manado. And in Manado, they've got the world's largest menorah. They've actually got on the mountain the world's largest menorah. I haven't been there yet. I'd love to go one day. But what he's done, it's very interesting. He's actually helped rebuild a synagogue in Manado.
Yeah, I read about it and I heard about it. Yeah.
And he has a lot of interfaith discussions with Muslim and Christian, and it's actually very, very fascinating. So with regard to your question, with regard to stamps, there's so many different varieties. You can collect thematics, you can collect varieties, or mistakes on stamps. You can collect artist proofs, where the stamp designers actually design the stamps, and if you're lucky enough to get them, you can get the actual proof design that the artist made. But there's very different theories, very different themes. With different countries, you don't have to have all the stamps. You can take the very first issue of certain countries, and you show, you can do so much research on when they were issued, how many stamps were issued. It's fascinating that there is so many different I don't know, not only themes in philately, but you can find sports, you can find religion, you can find dogs, nature. I saw the most incredible exhibition in Germany. It was in near Stuttgart. We had an exhibition in Fellbach. It was Israeli, Germany. We had a joint exhibition, and one of the winning awards was my friend the dog, and everything to do with the dog. They had the cancellation. If there was a cancellation with the dog on, it was just the most beautiful exhibition. And it's not always the value. Sometimes it's the rarity of getting the stamp or a cancellation when it's a postmark. And people collect all different types of anything related to philately. But with regard to the value, if a stamp is hasn't been issued, if there weren't that many stamps that were issued, or if there was a stamp that was issued and they found there was a mistake in it, so then those actually can become very valuable. Or like to take Israel, the very first stamp of Israel, the Doivri. So that there weren't that many issued, and if you managed to get the Doivri and they had a tab on it, so those are actually quite valuable. But what's actually even more valuable, if you have it sometimes on the letter and you just go into the postal history, people are very fascinated now in finding out more about where the letters were sent to and where they were sent from. There's also, people do aviation, there's crash letters, there's people collect things to do with the Holocaust, how people sent out letters that saved people's lives. There's just so many different facets in philately. And there's so much research.
Thilo, I think, Thilo, you had a question?
Stefan has a question, and then Thilo.
For me, it was really fascinating presentation. This picture with the Persian delegate or collector next to you, that was really something quite special. And with what you said, that this experience that probably many people have made, that if the contact is more on the individual level, that then things can move on much better. That reminded me a little bit of that world champion soccer game at the, I think it was at the French World Championship, when there was a match USA-Iran, which worked well without and which was even transmitted. But my question is, perhaps I overheard it in the report, but how did you actually, everything went so well and all the people you met, but I haven't really understood, that was also the teaser that Tino had sent, that you actually managed to enter the country. Somehow I've overheard it, or could you explain it again? That you dared to go there despite of the threats and that they let you enter despite of where you came from. So, how did this actually work? Or somehow I have missed that, or could you explain it again, please?
So Stefan, I'll tell you what was very interesting. They were very happy that we were participating. And I think part of the Indonesian culture and part of the Arab culture is hospitality. And those countries, because there were a few European countries that actually didn't attend, and they were very upset that they didn't. But those countries that made the effort to come, it's not an easy journey, but they were extremely grateful. So I was lucky because I have a South African, I'm a dual citizen with South Africa. You're allowed to keep a South African passport if you're Israeli citizen as well, and vice versa. So in South Africa, they know that I've got an Israeli passport, and here in Israel, they know I have a South African passport. So we entered Indonesia on my South African passport, but when I got there, everything was Israel. They had the Israeli flag under each exhibition, under each exhibit. When you look at the catalog, I'll just show it to you. So these are the commissioners. So they actually put the different commissioners, and they had the Israeli flag under my name, which I thought was incredible. They didn't have to do that. They could have just left the flag open, because it really was something really quite, this was 2012. It was something quite groundbreaking in a way to have the Israeli flag. You know, so I was just very, very, I don't know, it's hard to say, but I was so grateful that they did that, because they really went out of their way to make everybody, including me and my wife, feel very, very comfortable, and they appreciated that we came.
Thank you.
Thilo?
Yeah, Les, thank you very much for your fascinating talk. I read on the internet in preparation to this meeting that you started collecting stamps in your childhood years with stamps depicting cats and dogs.
Yeah.
And now could you name like 3 of your highlight stamps or postcards of your collection, stamps with a rare, expensive, or like interesting story to tell?
Okay, wow. So on eBay, it's actually very interesting. I collect Mozambique. And I've got a letter with the hippopotamus. It's actually it's not a very expensive stamp, but I've got this letter with the hippopotamus because I've got an artist, the artist who actually drew the stamp. I've got that actual artist drawing as well. So anything to do with the hippopotamus, I just have an affinity for. I don't know. So I saw it on eBay, and I actually got the letter. And when it came, I couldn't believe it because when I turned over the letter, it said Al Schwartz from Bara to Salisbury, and that's my wife's grandmother. So here I've got a letter that came from the States, somewhere in the States, on eBay, which was incredible. And then I'll just another fascinating cover. I think it's in Haaretz did it when they came to my home and they did that interview, which I didn't even know they really were going to be doing. So there's a envelope, it's from Mozambique company, and it's addressed to Cabrit in Alexandria. And I was exhibiting this in Tel Aviv. I get a phone call from the Philatelic Federation that somebody urgently wants to contact me because they want to buy that cover. So I know it's not very valuable. I paid maybe $50 for it, $100, and it wasn't big money that I paid for it. And what's so special about this cover? So I said, let them phone me, and I took their number, and I think either I phoned them or vice versa. And then they said to me, it was interesting because it was Kibrit from Alexandria to Bara. And they didn't know that there was a Kibrit family in Bara, and their family is Kibrit. So here, by going to this exhibition, for the first time, they actually saw that there was part of the family actually landed up in Bara, which they had no clue. So what I did is I said, you don't need to buy the cover. I'm collecting it more for the stamps and the postmark, but I'll make a photocopy, a color photocopy, and I sent them the color photocopy of that cover. So that was actually quite interesting. And then I think for me, what's very fascinating, I managed to get from a good friend of mine in London a Montefiore letter from Sir Moses Montefiore, and it's got his signature. And it's an original letter that he writes to Jerusalem. And just, when you go to the old city and you see the windmill of Montefiore, and I learned the history, it was quite a character. He lived till over 100 years old. But you're actually holding the letter that he wrote with his handwriting and his signature. So that it's not a very, very valuable, it's worth a couple of $100, but for me, it's invaluable. There's no, it's priceless because there are not many of them around, and I'm just very grateful that I have it. And it's one of my prized possessions because you're actually holding history and you read the letter and it's phenomenal.
Thank you. And I just want to learn more about the videos you are recording with Holocaust survivors. Art, when he introduced you, he just mentioned it, but I would like to know more. Is this like a personal project? Are you doing this for an organization? And how are you approaching the people you are interviewing?
Okay, so I'll just, okay. So when they had an exhibition in Klagenfurt, in the south of Austria.
Yeah.
And Klagenfurt and Israel, and there's a city in Nazareth Elite that are sisters, they twin cities. So they had an exhibition and they invited Israel, and I was the commissioner, and I went there, and I was in Vienna before going to Klagenfurt, and I was sitting in the park, and an old lady I was sitting next to me just struck up a conversation, and it turns out that she was a survivor. So I had my camera and I said, "Hey, do you mind if I just hear your story?" And she started relating to me her story. And it was just absolutely phenomenal. And when I was in South Africa, I actually met, somebody said I should meet a survivor. She's going to be turning 100 in a few months' time. She was in the Warsaw Ghetto, and then she was sent to Majdanek, and then Auschwitz. And this lady, Ella Blumenthal, is the most positive lady I think I've ever met. She is so positive, she's smiling, and she went through like hell. And just to hear people that have come out of such difficult, hair raising, and there's no words to describe the hell that they went through, but they are so positive, and they created families, and they lived their lives, and they were so productive. It's just so inspiring. I don't know. I find it very, 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 very special. It's such an honor to do it. So there are not too many survivors left in South Africa. There's, I think, less than 30, and I've managed to interview quite a few. I don't really interview. I just want to document this story. So I don't come with questions, and I just do it and I ask them. The majority allow me to put it on YouTube, so everybody can watch it. So I'll give you, I'll tell you something quite nice, and I think I don't want to overdo it. But there's a woman here in Jerusalem called Livia Beaton Jackson. She actually came from Czechoslovakia, and she was sent with her mother to Auschwitz. And in Auschwitz, Mengele actually saved her life. It's the most incredible story. Her mother had plaits. She had blonde hair, and her mother made plaits for her. And he came up to her, and she understood German, and he said, "Are you Jewish?" Because she looked like a German poster girl. And she said, "She is Jewish." And he said, "How old are you?" And she said, "She's 14. And Mengele said, "No, you must say you're 16. And he said, "Where's your mother?" And the mother was on the other lane, and nobody knew where the lanes were going. So she says, "Call your mother over." And she called her mother over, and the mother's sister, unfortunately, because she had like brown hair, they didn't allow her to come. So the sister didn't survive, but the mother and the daughter survived. She's now she survived Auschwitz. She went to America. She got a doctorate. She was a professor of history, and she used to relate her stories. And I met her here in Jerusalem. It was during the COVID, so the interview's outside. There's a bit of noise, but it was so special. And I put up that interview. There's a lot of viewers because it's just the most fascinating story. And she speaks as a 93-year-old with such a passion. Then I got about 3 weeks ago a message, which I couldn't believe. It was somebody saying that he's read about Mengele and he cried. And he said, "Why did the world allow this to happen?" It was just amazing. But what was incredible is it's Ahmed from Saudi Arabia. He had seen that video. And I couldn't believe what I was reading. So I asked him, I said, "Thank you so much for such a wonderful comment that you made. Do you have an email?" And he sent me his email. And then he sent me his WhatsApp. And now we're on WhatsApp and we speak to each other. And it's just the most incredible thing. And I told Livia Beaton Jackson that somebody from Saudi Arabia watched the video and he made this comment and she couldn't believe it. So I don't know, you don't know who's going to be watching it. Can I just show you all? Because it's something very special. This is, and he won't mind if I show it. This is Ahmed. I don't know if it comes out. Okay. I sent him for the month of Ramadan, Ramadan Kareem, and then he sent me for Israeli independence. Like, so, you know, even it doesn't have to be on stamps. It can be on anything. But here you have somebody from Saudi Arabia who's such a wonderful person, and we have such a wonderful connection.
Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, I hope that answered your question a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
I encourage all of you to surf Glassman's
Aaron, you're very kind.
library in YouTube.
No, it's not only me. I do it with a friend, Larry Pepper, who puts on also videos of.
He came.
You know what? We just want to make it something positive.
30,000 videos. 30,000 videos.
Yeah, but there's some are very short. Some are like 10 seconds and.
Wow.
That's really very inspiring.
Any other questions?
Well, I have a remark, and perhaps what I learned also again, or examples of what is the theory. People not allowed to travel to Indonesia and then welcomed so much. I have an experience from my family has a family-owned, medium-sized, mittelständisch, as you would say in German, in the industry company, chemical pharmaceutical industry. And we have an experience some years ago. We were looking for a registration also in Iraq. And I was confronted with, for a drug, we make sclerosins for sclerotherapy of leg varices. And there was a requirement because of a they required from me as the managing director and co-owner, a boycott letter that we testify that we don't have any ingredients in our drugs that come from Israel. And this is a situation where you have to make a decision. What do you do? And in the end, I didn't want to sign something like that, but I was lucky enough. Somehow we don't have any ingredients that we receive from Israel. So I told our regulatory people, let's not, I'm not going to sign this, but let's try it the other way around. We give them a list with the countries of which we receive our excipients ingredients, and fortunately they accepted it. I don't know what I would have done if they hadn't. Iraq is fortunately not China or USA, a bigger market. But nevertheless, perhaps when the clubs perhaps grow together more in the future, it may be interesting for us in Wiesbaden, Germany, to learn more about how is it finally in practice relationship where on the formal state level it is so strict and no contact would be allowed, but apparently, as Les could describe in such a moving way, you are able to find ways, or people also from other countries, people find ways to communicate and create relationships. So perhaps for the future, this is something where one may have perhaps more meeting subjects also for Thilo, something for our club, that someone from you perhaps has more experiences like those from Les now, that people somehow got around it.
So, Stefan, can I just mention, you know, it was amazing. They had a joint German-Israel exhibition in Fellbach, which is a suburb of Stuttgart.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely amazing. It was incredible. This beautiful little, it's a lovely little town right next to Stuttgart. And this was, I think, in 2018. And it was just Germany and Israel. And it was really amazing to see, you know, Germans, and well, I came with my wife and we had an Israeli judge as well. And they gave a medal, and in the medal, it was the Brandenburg Gate and the menorah. And I think it was just something also exceptionally special. So it really broke down so many barriers as well. And there you had the Israeli flag together with the German flag. And, you know, it was just wonderful. I don't know. I have very fond memories because it was very special being there.
Great. I'm very curious about this future relationship, and I'm a strong supporter of the connection between.
Stefan, we will pick up your idea. It's to have a talk on that subject. It's certainly interesting, and I can, for example, contribute like Malaysia, what David mentioned before.
Yeah.
And when I was resident in Jakarta, I was resident in Singapore as well, and was responsible for Malaysia too. So I have my own experience. But now we are coming close to an end. So my thanks to Les for a very interesting and inspiring talk. And Art, will you? Thank you.
I was very happy and thrilled to learn that Nicholas Kircher, who had to leave early from this meeting, and he was a past president of our club. He's now with Rotary in Bonn, and he came from Bonn, And he was when he was here in Jerusalem, he was director of the Schmidt Girls' School, the German language Schmidt Girls' School in East Jerusalem. And next week, he's going to give us a talk on the Schmidt School and adventure in education. So it should be very fascinating to hear from Nikolaus about the promotion of German culture and German education in Jerusalem, going back, of course, to the period of the German Empire and all the monuments that are here from the 19th century, churches, etc. So it should be very fascinating, especially that he's the former president of our club from Germany.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Art. So then next meeting next week is again at the usual time, 1 o'clock noon time, okay?
5
Keep
o'clock.
that in mind.
Kern, we're waiting for you at 6 a.m. or is it 4 a.m.?
5.
Oh, no.
I did it once, and I will try to do it again. But
the early bird catches the worm.
Yeah.
And I don't have a real good taste.
Early bird is welcome.
Lovely to see everybody.
Later out.
Yeah, bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Later on.
Bye.